Coming to you from St. George, Utah, this is 70 is the New 50, a fun look at the joyous side of aging. And now your host for 70 is the New 50, Jan Graham Hunt.
And welcome to 70 is the New 50, the very first episode of our podcast. So we're excited. I'm Jan Graham, your host. And yes, the good news is in year 2022, we are getting younger and healthier as we age. This podcast is going to explore why that is happening and shine the light on some wonderful examples. A quick word about me. I am a retired, or should I say recovering lawyer from Salt Lake City. My husband and I moved here 8 years ago, and we love it. And it turns out that St. George is not only a mecca for hiking and biking and pickleball, which I'm addicted to, but also vast learning opportunities and personal growth. We'll talk about that today. Why this podcast? Well, that credit or blame belongs to my brilliant son, Will, who is a creator, host, and contributor for podcasts in Los Angeles. He showed me the world of podcasts and inspired me to try this one. Let's make one thing clear. Aging is not a negative. It's a victory. We're proud of our age, and more importantly, what we are doing at our age. I'm proud, in fact, I'm thrilled to be 72 and counting. And finally, the setting for our recording today is the beautiful campus of Dixie State University, soon to be Utah Tech University, in beautiful St. George, Utah, which to us is the cultural capital of the West. And we are in the podcast room, a state-of-the-art wonder created and operated by Sean Denovan. Our focus today is on St. George as a mecca of health and learning, and two programs that are leading the way. ICL, which is part of the university, or the Institute for Continued Learning, and LIVE with an exclamation mark. Our guests today are Dr. Robert Kramer, who is the Executive Director of ICL and the creator and director of the LIVE program, Deanne Sheba, former president of ICL and current head of strategic planning. And finally, Russ Stevenson, current president of ICL and teacher of two very provocative classes. Would you each take a moment just to quickly describe your background and how you got to St. George and ICL? Rob?
Well, I got to St. George along I-15. It's a good way to get there from Salt Lake City. So I took early retirement and decided I was finished with the corporate world and decided St. George is the mecca, and finished a career that started in working in child abuse, working with victims as well as perpetrators, and then running psychiatric hospitals and substance abuse hospitals, and eventually getting into the whole area of wellness. And wellness is very much a psychological area because you can have the information about how to be well, but it's learning how to change your behavior that is what really becomes important. And so that was about 15 years of my career. And then finally came down here, and we were very worried about, what do we do? And so what we found is we found a lot of things to do, particularly when we found out about ICL, and very quickly got involved because we found the classes just remarkable instructors.
And we are going to get to that. So Deanne, really quickly about your background and how you got here.
Okay, I'm a CPA, and so I'm a CPA, and I worked for Pacific Corp, which is Rocky Mountain Power and Pacific Power and Light. And basically, I took an early retirement from there and got into my second act of raising my teenage sons. Now, if that wasn't exciting enough, I decided I needed something better than raising those kids, right, because staying at home is much harder. So I found ICL. I accidentally checked the volunteer box, and that volunteer box ended me up with working in the office, being on the council and now a past president.
And now currently head of strategic planning.
Correct.
Oh, great. And finally, Russ.
Well, I have a daughter down here, and when I retired, she said I couldn't live anywhere else. So we came on down and
We understand.
settled in, and I enjoyed it and had a lot of good, exciting times with the grandkids down here. My background is in healthcare administration. I ran the medical part of the Navajo Reservation healthcare for the Utah part of the reservation. I've been the administrator of 2 different mental health systems, and I was the medical director for the Utah Department of Corrections. So those things all gave me some fun things to do and think about.
Indeed.
And we've come down here and got involved. I checked the box, too, like Deanne. I thought I'd be stuffing envelopes, but it wasn't long till they asked me to do some other things. It's been exciting. I've decided that this is a place where we can make our golden years golden.
Fantastic. And we can all relate. It is a lovely, lovely place to do that. Let's talk first, Rob, about ICL. This is the Institute for Continued Learning at Dixie State University. What is ICL? What is the history? Who's it for?
It's really for people that are retired or semi-retired who want to enrich their lives with continuing education and continuing to involve themselves in physical activities, emotional, social gatherings, social events, and some of the best courses available anywhere.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about some of the ones that are real standouts. And I know personally that we're dealing with some amazing teachers and classes. But let's talk about a few. We can't list them all, but for you, what have been some standouts? And we'll get to others later in the episodes.
Well, I had attended community programs in Salt Lake City or the Salt Lake Valley, and you had to go to an elementary school 15 miles away for one, and then a high school 20 miles away for the other, and they weren't very good. So even though I paid a lot more money, I dropped out of each of them. And when I came here, they're all on this wonderful Dixie campus. I walked into Mark Twain class with my wife, and I was just astounded at the quality of the class. I don't think I'd ever taken a better course.
And was that Doug Bowen?
That was Doug Bowen.
Oh.
Then somebody said, "You've got to take Rick Miller's geology class." I said, "I don't like geology." They said, "You will like geology." I took the class and just was overwhelmed with that experience and really understanding what a mecca St. George is for understanding the history of the world in geology and what a unique place it is.
I understand there's a great story about a couple that was new to St. George who attended one of Rick Miller's Geologic Wonderland classes and decided to give $1 million to the science building here. They were so impressed with what he was showing them.
Yeah, Dennis and Diane Lyman, very. They've been coming to ICL for a long time, and we have contributions from all of our members that help us with providing scholarships to specialty students, such as single mothers and those kinds of things. And so we do a lot for the university as well. I mean, it's a real wonderful partnership.
Well, I know Rick Miller's classes have been phenomenal. I also know about Cynthia Holman-Schmidt's classes, Discovering the Tao Te Ching, and I know that's very popular. Also, Warren Stuckey's wonderful class on creative writing, a former surgeon, I believe, who now has published novels and is inspiring writers. Any others?
Well, yeah, and his Dr. Stuckey's men's health and the women who love them. I'm probably paraphrasing that incorrectly, but that became very important to me when I found out I had prostate cancer. And so it was a remarkable class that everybody should take. We have these Socrates Cafe classes that are very popular and particularly important now when we're having an issue with so much conflict and hatred and anger and lack of civility. And these classes give people with very divergent ideas a chance to talk. And Russ is at another class. Let me say this about that. And I think it's really helping us to come together and accept different opinions and be able to learn from each other.
Absolutely. Well, that's a wonderful segue to you, Russ, and your class. Let me say this about that. And you also have another class, I believe, about let's do a melodrama.
We decided to give it a shot. That's the first time
Wonderful.
we've tried that. And
Let's start with the class. Let me say this about that.
well, we've discovered that with a group like this, with as much background and history and experience, that there are so many of our members that have just fantastic outlooks on life and opinions on different things. So we decided to pull them together and share those opinions and their successes with others. And so as we talk about, actually we let the class determine the subjects that we talk about each week. Last week we had suicide. We had one lady in the class who actually had a son who had committed suicide. And everybody left the class with let's just say a healthier regard and respect and understanding of that whole difficult situation of suicide.
It's wonderful. And how about your other class? Let's do a melodrama.
Well, I've always been involved in theater, community theater, and we've always talked a little bit about trying to do something. And so we thought, well, let's try this. We decided to go with melodrama so that we would have an opportunity to draw people out of themselves, kind of give them a different paradigm to work from, and to clown around a little and to actually put it on. All we need now is an audience.
All right. I think that might be easy. Right.
So that's pretty much the way those came about.
Wonderful. Let's step back just a hair here and talk about the challenges of ICL now. We've, of course, just been through an extremely difficult period with COVID. It's not over. And how has that affected things? And I want to segue a little bit to Deanne here because she's the head of strategic planning. And tell us about that process, Deanne, what that involves. And from Russ and Rob as well, what are the challenges for what lies ahead and what are the opportunities?
The strategic plan, the way we put that together, we meet once a year during our retreat, and we get all the committee chairs and get them together to brainstorm. So we get the executives and the council members, and we brainstorm some great ideas of what we want to do in the current year and then how we want to look forward to the next 5 years. And it's been a real challenge with this COVID on how we move forward. So it's been great that everybody is bound together to come up with ideas like Zoom. The great thing about that is our ability to move forward and actually offer courses to people throughout the world and not just around here. And wouldn't you guys agree that that's been something amazing that we've been able to leverage off what's happened to us? And so we do have this 5-year plan that we look forward to and try to meet the needs of our members along with the community.
We've probably driven Deanne crazy with the idea that we've had to, well, if we look at COVID as almost a double-edged sword. We've had to adjust and deal with it. We've lost a lot of membership, and it's increased somewhat. But it also opened a lot of doors, as Deanne was just saying. On the other side, it's made it difficult for us to project the current ways that we were looking at our 5-year plan. So.
Understood. Rob?
Yeah, well, you know, when COVID hit, we had to cancel our program about 2 weeks early, and so we decided, well, we need to do something for our members. So we jumped right into Zoom, knowing nothing about how to do Zoom from a broadcast level, and whether or not any of our members would even attempt Zoom. We got some brave instructors to volunteer, and we offered 5 classes immediately, and they were quite successful. So we decided, well, this can be our solution going forward in the event that we have to reduce the number of people in our classrooms, which we did, and we need to offer an alternative. And Zoom is a blessing and a curse. It's very, very hard to do. Very, very hard to do. And we have instructors who are not technicians, and
some of our members are not quite so excited about giving it a try, and I know that's changed a lot.
Yeah, so we went into this our next fall season with just 1/4 the membership, which put us in the red dramatically, and so we increased our focus on Zoom and other kinds of ways to bring the membership back, and it wound up being at this point now. We are about the only organization that's doing Zoom at any level within the St. George setting, and probably 2/3 of our members are watching at least one, if not all, of their classes via Zoom.
So it's really been a lifeline for a lot of people.
It has been a lifeline. It's like I say, it's a blessing, a curse. We prefer in classroom, but it actually has been very effective and offered other opportunities for people.
Wonderful. I want to point out here that these wonderful people you're hearing from and all the truly, truly incredible teachers in the ICL program are not doing it for money. They do it for love. And future episodes are going to feature many of the fabulous teachers who are truly doing amazing things. We really look forward to giving them some time. Let's talk about LIVE. LIVE, exclamation point. And this is, of course, short for the Live Long, Live Well program. It is ICL is one of the sponsors of it. Rob Kramer is really the leader of it, but that's how it's pronounced. It's not live, it's live. It's a command, not a description.
Oh, good.
So Deanne, let's have a little backstory about this, how this came to be.
Yes. Well, Rob works 24/7, and he has, as you all know, he teaches, he does so many different things. But one day he called me up and he goes, I have this great idea and I just wanted to run it by you. And I'm like going, okay, what is it? And he goes, have you heard about the Blue Zone? And I said,
Dan Buettner's book.
Yes,
right?
Dan Buettner's book. And I said, no, tell me about it, Rob. And so he talked about the 5 villages and how these people live longer and they live well and the way they live and the characteristics. And he said, we could bring that to our community. What do you think of that idea? And okay, that's how it started, and
All
that's
right.
where we're going. So I'm going to turn it back to Rob.
So Rob, you dream big, and that's the result. So that's wonderful. So tell us about how it started and what's going on now.
Well, it's Deanne's fault because she really focused on vision and say, what do we do? What are we really here for? And what does the future look like? And so she gave me an assignment to think, and unfortunately I did, and I just realized we do so much more than providing a diversion for people with a simple class. We're actually helping them to live happy, healthy, long lives.
Absolutely.
And so I thought, oh my gosh, that's a Blue Zone, and so I talked to Deanne. Deanne said, go for it, present it to the council, and they supported it, and then we looked.
And that would be the ICL Council.
The ICL Council, and then we talked to our sponsor, Dixie State University, and the Associate Provost, Nancy Houck, Dr. Nancy Houck, and she was very, very supportive, and talked to the university president and the provost, and then we invited the city to participate, as well as Intermountain Healthcare. And we've been going for almost 3 years now.
Fabulous. And I know that there was a very exciting launch of International Yoga Day and a huge turnout here. Also, holiday challenges about how to be healthy during the holidays and not put on that inevitable 3 to 5 pounds that we're all familiar with. And I saw there was a New Year's challenge and recently a civility challenge, and I find that fascinating. Talk about that for just a moment.
Well, we're introducing a civility challenge because the focus of living long, happy lives have 3 primary components that we're focusing on. Social, emotional, which civility is a part of that. Physical, which is your diet and your exercise and those kinds of things. And then cognitive, making sure that your brain is functioning as well as it can. And we approach all of those with our challenges as well as our courses within ICL. So civility is, I've done some research recently, and anecdotally, we found that some people were sending some rather uncivil messages, which is so unusual.
Imagine that.
Yeah, because ICL is a family, and it was becoming a little political, and people start to get angry when they're afraid, and a lot of our politicians want us to be afraid of changes and the kinds of challenges that we have. So we've decided that this next one's going to be about civility, helping us set the framework and be ground zero for a civility challenge that will grow, hopefully expand exponentially, and be a deterrent to the kind of hostility and anger that we're seeing, and have people come together and work to resolve these issues.
I cannot imagine anything more important or more timely now. We need to be able to talk about hard things and not be angry and hateful toward each other. And Russ, it reminds me a little bit of your class, let me say this about that, but also some of the activities that are sponsored, the lectures and the tours and the hikes, and say a moment about that. They've been grand successes.
Oh, I'd love to. The one thing we have done is try to incorporate all these live ideas in the presentation of pretty much all of the classes that we have. And so the instructors are very, very supportive of us as well. And we have, up until the pandemic hit us, having a Thursday night lecture with some well-known presenters from the community and some of our own instructors. We had to cut that back to one a month because of the COVID kind of thing.
Right.
But we've also sponsored a number of social activities with Christmas parties. A big gala that we had was very, very successful just before the pandemic hit. And the geology bus tours and biology field trips and hiking. So there's a lot of physical activities as well. So, and what I like about it is that the Live Long, Live Well program and ICL give us folks that would generally just hang around the house and not be motivated to do much an opportunity and a motivation to get out and do something, and do it because we want to, we like it, it's for our own gratification or our own education kind of thing. And for me, that's a great big plus for ICL.
Absolutely. And Rob, that reminds me of something you've talked about in your psychology class, which you also teach, about the importance of social interaction and connection. And we'll maybe do a full episode on that because it's so important to the members of ICL. I want to just remind everyone that you can find out a lot more about both ICL and the LIVE program on the websites icl.dixie.edu and livelong.dixie.edu, and they have wonderful newsletters. This podcast is about people who are living a fully engaged life as they age. And I would like to close each week with a tip that has inspired me, just to keep you going, I hope. And this week I want to talk about a book. It's by Twyla Tharp. It's called Keep It Moving. She is a world-famous choreographer, age 80. She is known for creating crossover ballet and modern dance. She did so for Mikhail Baryshnikov in a famous dance called Push Comes to Shove, and she's done ballets to the music of Bob Dylan and the Beach Boys, and the book is fabulous. It's about vitality as we age. Keep moving in the very literal sense. Keep your body moving, and she has a wonderful discussion about how our bodies were created to move. It's the most natural thing in the world, and as we get older, we get afraid of moving. And she said that is all a barrier that we put on ourselves. There's nothing that keeps us from moving and vitality as we age. And she also talks about embracing change. Here's a quote: "Age is not the enemy. Stagnation is the enemy." And I found reading the book sort of opened my mind about all the possibilities, and she's a remarkable model for all of us. Again, at age 80, she's still dancing and still choreographing. Well, that is a wrap for us. I want to thank you so much for joining us on our premiere episode of 70 is the New 70. I am going to, 70 is the new 50. Sean just gave me a stare. All right. And we're delighted to have you here and hope that you will join us next time. Stay curious, stay out there, and embrace change. We'll see you next
Thanks
time.
so much for joining us for 70 is the New 50. In coming episodes, you will meet the rock stars in our community who are sharing their expertise to empower us to stay young, healthy, and happy as we age. We'll see you on the next episode of 70 is the New 50. In the meantime, live long, live well, and live with joy. This has been a production from a podcast studio.